Great. So welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming along to today's Authors at Google Talk. I'm incredibly excited to welcome Doug Stevenson, who's going to be talking to us today about the power of story. Doug has had a 20-year acting career, of which 13 years was spent in Hollywood. And so we're excited to be spending time with you to learn a little bit more about storytelling and the power of storytelling and the content that's in your book, The Story Theatre Method. So, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. And it's really exciting to be here. Go ahead, a little applause might be nice up front. Thank you. The first reframe that I want to give you around storytelling is this. Stories are products. Stories are products. They can be monetized. They can make you money. And the Google story is pretty interesting, right? 1995, Sergey Brin and Larry Page met each other at Stanford, started to collaborate, developed a friendship. They were both technology guys. They decided, yeah, we've got something in common. And in 1996, they had created their first search engine. And this was probably the first search engine that had ever occurred anywhere in the world. It was a new concept, new idea. At Stanford University, it was called Backrub. And so here they are developing this thing, and it's really successful at Stanford, and the students are using it, and everybody's thinking it's really cool. But it took too much bandwidth over the computer system, and so they had to rework it a little bit. And in 1997, I believe it is, they decided we need a new name. Backrub is kind of weird. That's not the right name, and they came up with Google. They went out and bought the domain name, google.com. And over a period of time, they started to realize this is hot. This is amazing. This is good technology. We need to do something with this. And that's where story came in. They knew they had to go sit down with venture capital people, somebody who could give them some money because they knew they didn't have the money themselves. They had to find somebody who could fund this idea. And so they went out and they started talking to different people. And they ended up getting lucky. There was this guy named Andy Bechtolsheim at Sun Microsystems. And they sat down across the table with him and they told the story of a vision they had for a search engine technology that would allow people to find any information anywhere. Now, this didn't exist outside of Stanford at that time, and it was a new concept and a new idea, and they had to paint this picture in Andy's mind of what this would be. They told the story. They walked out of that meeting with a $100,000 check. Are stories products? Did they sell that story? Did it monetize their business? Yes. And so what I want you to understand about story today is with this story theater method, we're going to expand the ability for you to engage and inform and entertain and grab people's attention with this story theater method, which is a combination of what I learned in Hollywood doing Shakespeare and studying movies and business presentations. Because storytelling in business is very serious business. So here's the exercise that I want you to do. Recall a childhood memory or your favorite movie. 5 seconds. Okay, you got something. It happened just that fast. Am I right? Did something pop up for you, yes or no? It happens just that fast. Your brain goes on a Google search of your entire life for all of the movies and all of the childhood memories, and something pops up. Now, what just happened? When you recalled that childhood memory, when you recalled that movie, your movie screen popped up, and what did you see? Did you see a picture, yes or no? Yes? Did you see a picture? Did you see a scene? If it was from a movie, did you see the scene in the movie? So here's what I need to do. I need some interactivity here. I need one person to share childhood memory and what you saw, and one person to share what was the movie and what did you see.
My childhood memory was with friends, riding big wheels down the street on my hill.
Okay, how old were you in this memory? How far back does this go?
Grade school.
Grade school, so 6, 7, 8 years of age?
Something like that.
Okay, can you see that right now? Can you describe to me what you're seeing?
Yes.
Describe it.
We're outside, it's a nice bright sunny day, there's a lot of people smiling, we're on our big wheels, there's people falling down, there's people racing back up the hill, there's a lot of activity, it's kind of loud, it's a lot of fun, we're by ourselves, there's no parental supervision, it's kind of dangerous, it's exciting.
All right, do you hear the energy going on here? And why can he give me this in such detail? He is watching the movie right now. Would you agree?
Yes.
You're literally watching this movie and going step by step by step. While he's looking at me with his eyes on me, he is watching a movie internally. Vision out, vision in at the same time. Amazing, amazing technology. This gray matter in here, pretty interesting. Now, thank you very much. Somebody with the childhood memory, or the movie. Somebody with the movie, please raise your hand and give me something.
Transformers, the animated movie.
Okay.
And I just remember when my friends my friends at this age knew it so well that we're reciting the lines from the movie and going through the different scenes.
So you actually can recite it. It's memorable.
Yep.
And because you can see the scene and visualize the characters and the environment, you can remember what was going on inside that. Am I correct?
Yeah. Yep.
And so this is what happens to your brain. Literally, story is the most important communication tool you can have in your tool belt if you want to be memorable, if you want to be persuasive. Now, if you don't want to be memorable, if you want to just flap your lips and say a whole bunch of stuff in a room and people walk out and go delete and they go on with their business and nothing changes, then you don't need story. But if you want to be memorable like that movie and all of those scenes and all of that detail, then you need to be masterful with story. Now, here's the thing about everybody's memory just now. Why that childhood memory? Why that movie? Because it was an emotionally charged event. Would you agree that childhood memory had some joy or sorrow, pleasure or pain at some level? For those of you who had a childhood memory, yes or no? Was it an emotionally charged event? Yes. Okay. The movie. Was that a joyous movie? Do you really dig that movie? It was fun. So if you had a movie, like, why do you remember it? Because it was a cool movie. Because I dug it. Because while I was watching that, it was fun. It was exciting. We don't remember things that aren't emotionally charged. So if you've ever given a boring presentation that was filled with all kinds of incredible data and it didn't stick, that's because there was no emotional connection. And you know what the number one reason I am hired to go out and work with companies and individuals and teams? They want the emotional connection. Because they understand intellectually that if I don't make an emotional connection, the stuff doesn't stick. Would you agree? It's that emotional connection. And your data and your PowerPoint slides very seldom do that. But you know, if I do PowerPoint slides with imagery and pictures, am I right? You have a better shot at being memorable. So the quote on this page from the book Brain Rules by John Medina, one important area of research is the effect of emotion on learning. Emotionally arousing events tend to be better remembered than neutral events. They persist much longer in our memories and are recalled with greater accuracy than neutral events. Emotion is the fast lane to the brain. If you can infuse your presentation with emotion, and I mean you got to stand up here and cry, but I mean you get into it. You have some energy, you have some emotion, you're charged by this story, and if it's a personal story, it has that emotion in it. So emotion is the fast lane to the brain. I want you to think of the story theater method as an app for storytelling. Now, I don't know about you, but when I just recently got my iPhone, and I had an Android before that, the Android, the iPhone, the BlackBerry, would you agree that's an amazing communication tool? I mean, just out of the box, it's already awesome. It just does all of these cool things. But when does it become really awesome for you in particular? When you start downloading the apps that are specific to you, would you agree? So who's got Yelp? Anybody got Yelp? I love Yelp. It helps me right here because I don't know where I am. I can find restaurants. I found a sushi place last night. So cool. Google Maps. Oh my gosh. I got lost yesterday. I went for a 6-mile run. I found a running trail. I could map the run with Map My Run so I could see where am I going and how's my heartbeat and how far have I gone. Well, the apps make your iPhone, your smartphone, unique to you, and they take your iPhone to the next level. The story theater method takes storytelling to another level because it makes it more visual, more three-dimensional. There are all kinds of different stories. ConAgra wanted me to help them with their emerging leaders to not be so technical in their presentations, not so boring. Microsoft wanted me to help them find the stories for their sales presentations. Lockheed Martin wanted me to help their executives not go in and give these briefings that just put everybody to sleep. Everybody's got a different use for it, but there's a different story for every different use and utility. It's like every story is a different kind of an app. How to craft your stories to make them memorable. That's the 9 steps of story structure in the story theater method that I'm going to share with you today. How to craft the story. It's not enough to have an interesting story. It is not enough to just think, oh, I've got this story, I'll just tell it. Have you ever had the experience that in your mind you had this really good story? It was in your head, and it was brilliant in the shower. And you thought this is going to work in this meeting, and then you get up and you start telling that story, and it just starts coming out of your mouth, and you forget things, and you go out of sequence. Am I the only one who's ever had this happen? And you delete a critical piece of the story, and you don't know that you've deleted it till 7/8 of the way through the story, and you go, oh my God, it won't make any sense without that piece. I'll insert it now. Does that work? Come on, tell me. No. Say no. It doesn't work because if you go out of sequence, if you don't have the right craft, it doesn't work. So the 9 steps of story helps you to do that. One of my students came to me, and he was going to be in a venture capital competition. They got 10 minutes to walk into this room and do their presentation. They wanted to work on the story for this venture capital presentation. It was a competition. There was always other people coming in for 10 minutes. You get to come in. There's these people with checkbooks sitting there. And it's like, come in, do your 10 minutes, walk out the door. They came to me and worked on their story theater story of this vision that they had for this startup company right here in the Silicon Valley. They walked into that room. They did their 10 minutes, and they won $25 million. What is your story worth? Because your personal story, that story you have of some idea, some vision, you can monetize that story. You can change the world, and you can change your own life. Now, anybody here want to change the world while making a lot of money? Anybody? I don't know about you, but I like to be able to pay my mortgage and change your life at the same time. I have another student who came to me, and she said, you know what, I'm going to be a motivational speaker someday, but right now I'm a nurse. But I've got this awesome story. We worked on that story. She has built a multi-million-dollar speaking and consulting business on the basis of one really awesome story. I had another guy who came to me and he said, you know, I am making these presentations because the economy's gone sour on me, and I'm making these presentations, but they're not working, and I think I'm telling stories. I worked with him for an hour on his stories. His closing ratio went from 2% to 40% after 1 hour of working on the strategic use of story in a presentation. How do you monetize your stories? What are your stories worth? They're worth a lot of money. So let's go to page 3. Move it or lose them. Chapter 17 in my book. What happens to the audience while you are telling a story? Well, let me perform a story and we'll see what happens. Back in 1998, I got a phone call. I was sitting in my office, the phone rang. It was a speakers bureau. And she called me up to let me know that I'd been chosen to do the after-dinner keynote speech outside of Kansas City in Overland Park, Kansas, the Positive Power of Change keynote speech. And she said, the meeting planner wants to talk to you. She wants to make sure that you're on the same page. Give her a call. So I called her up and she said, oh, I am in charge of everything. I don't do this kind of thing, but this is the annual meeting. It's a really big deal. So you have to be at the front desk at 5:30 p.m. And I'm going to pick you up and we're going to drive down to the restaurant. We're going to get set up and I got to do registration. I got to work with the caterers and the AV. Could you be, you have to be there at 5:30 p.m. Okay, 5:30 p.m. I'll be at the front desk. Fine. Now I was thinking to myself when I hung up the phone, okay, so she's not picking me up till 5:30 p.m. Man, if I fly in the day before, I'm going to waste the entire day. I never get anything done. I'm so bad on the road. Why am I so bad? How many times can I go to the gym? How many times can I read USA Today? How many times can I get a pedicure? But I had a rule, and I think you guys all have the same rule. If you're a business traveler, do you ever fly in for a meeting on the same day as the meeting? It's a bad idea, am I right? It's a bad idea. But I was thinking maybe it's possible because this isn't LA to Boston. This is Colorado Springs to Kansas City, middle of the country to the middle of the country. I thought maybe it's possible. I'll call my travel agent. You can tell how old I am because I was even using a travel agent. Travel agent. Yeah, hi, Carol. Yeah, hi. I'm good. How are you? Yes. Another booking. Yeah. Kansas City, August 28th. Actually, Carol, could you look on the 28th? I know, I have a rule. 2:30? Really, 2:30? Well, no, she's not picking me up till 5:30. It would give me 3 hours. Is there a backup? There is. Okay. Okay. What's the routing? Through O'Hare. Okay. All right. Give me just a sec. Don't do this. Don't do this. Okay, let's do this. Okay, fine, thanks. I don't know why, but I just felt good about this. I felt this time it's going to work. Positive power change. I mean, that's what I do. So on the day of the booking, I went to the airport, took off on time, flying through the friendly skies, land at O'Hare Airport, walk out into Concourse B. Okay, Concourse B, departure board. Okay, there we go. Des Moines, Jacksonville, Kansas City, B-18 delayed. Oh, man. Delayed an hour. Okay, well, it's only delayed an hour. Instead of 2:30, I get there at 3:30. Still 2 hours. Not bad. Went to the Red Carpet Club, had an hour to kill, came back, looked, departure board again. The Red Carpet Club, departure board, B-18, delayed again. Oh my God, finally, I get a flight out of Chicago into Kansas City. The plane had pulled up to the gate. It is on the ground, pulling up to the gate. 4:45. 4:45, oh my God, what did she say? At rush hour, there's very seldom enough taxis at the airport, but there's always the little blue super shuttle bus. They run every half hour. 4:45. You do the math. I am sitting in my seat. Row 28. Window seat. I am literally in the last seat in the plane. I've got 15 minutes if there are no taxis to get all the way out to get to the curb. What are my chances? The positive power change. The positive power change. Okay, come on. Let's go down the aisle. People, let's move it down the aisle. Okay, come on. Positive power. Oh my God, 12 minutes. Come on, positive power change. Are you kidding me, lady? Is that your entire life? Have you ever float? You rookie. Jeez. Okay. All right. Good. Here we go. Okay. All right. Okay. Positive power change. Hit that. Come on. Finally, I get off the plane. Luggage carousel. Okay. 5 minutes. Okay. Come on. Shh. I finally get to the curb. Whoa. 5 o'clock. Whoa. Shuttle bus. No taxis. But positive power change. What do I teach? Reframe the situation. Change represents an opportunity for something better to take place in your life. No taxis. Miss my shuttle bus. 5:05. This is an opportunity for something better to take place in my life. And then I see it sitting right in front of my face. Literally, I have been looking over the roof of a long white stretch limo. Sitting right there, I'm thinking, opportunity. I look over, and the trunk is open, and there's this short little guy. He looks like Danny DeVito in Polyester. He's just, closing the trunk and getting back. Hi, excuse me. Are you by any chance going to Overland Park, Kansas? I got to get a ride. I'm a motivational speaker, and I've got to give a ride tonight. It's an emergency. There's no taxis. Can you give me a ride? This might be your lucky day. Really? Why is it my lucky? Guy I was supposed to give a ride to, his flight got canceled, then I was just going to deadhead back. Can we work something out? You got $20? I do have $20. Give me the 20. I give the guy $20. He takes my luggage. I'm sitting in the back of a limo. I'm thinking to myself, this is so cool. I mean, the positive power change, reframe the situation, change represents an opportunity. It actually is true. Oh my gosh. So now we're having that conversation you have with limo drivers, taxi drivers. Buddy, It's a good thing you missed that shuttle. I used to drive for that company. There's 8 hotels on that route. I believe, if I recall, yours would have been about number 7. It's rush hour. You never would have got there on time if you caught that shuttle, but because you got a ride with me, I've got an alternate route. I can get you there on time. So the next time you come to the airport, man, don't look for the shuttle. Look for the limo. Look for the limo. Ooh, that's good. Look for the limo. Oh. Well, I went and gave the speech. 5:29, he literally drops me off at the hotel lobby. I give the speech, everything goes great. But the next day as I'm flying home, I'm sitting on the plane, kind of in that half awake, half dazed, half sleepy thing, kind of going over what happened yesterday and going over and over in my head like a mantra from a guru. Don't look for the shuttle, man. Look for the limo. Look for the limo. Look for the limo. Oh my gosh, look for the limo. Well, it just was such a cool message because this is the metaphor for my life. When things go wrong, if you focus on solutions rather than problems, if you look for the opportunity, they're there. Well, you got to look for the limo or else it's not going to appear. Now, how about you? Have you ever had a project that doesn't go according to plan? Yes or no? You ever had something in your life not go according to plan? Your first divorce? Your second divorce? Your teenagers? Well, my challenge for you is the next time things aren't go according to plan, focus on solutions rather than problems. In other words, look for the limo. Say that with me nice and loud. Look for the limo. Oh my gosh, that's story theater. Now, is that engaging? Did you watch the movie in your mind just now, yes or no? Yes or no? Did you see it? Did you participate in it? Here is the really cool thing about this. Where did you forget that you were sitting out there watching me tell a story, and without knowing it, you slipped inside the story, and you were in it somewhere. You were literally in one of the environments. You were feeling an emotional state. So I need 3 people. Very quickly, raise your hand. I'll point to you. Where were you inside the story? Right there. What do you got?
You were trapped in row 28 in the back of the...
How about row 28? Was anybody back there with me? Oh my gosh. Did you get some anxiety? You probably got some anxiety. And how many of you were also ticked off at that lady? I have had a lot of people go, I hate that lady. I think, you're listening to me tell the story, but you had hate in your heart while you were listening to me tell the story because that lady is driving you nuts. Where else were you in this story? Thank you very much. Where else? 2 more people. What?
Talking to Danny DeVito, the driver.
Talking to Danny DeVito, so I'm at the curb and I got the dialogue going on, so you're kind of seeing that. You're seeing the curb. Where else? Anybody else?
Similar situation, but when the super shuttle has just left.
Super shuttle, oh my gosh! That sense. Now, was there emotion connected to these scenes that you were in? Yes or no? Did you feel it? Did you have joy and sorrow and frustration? Did you laugh? Did you feel it? Yes or no? Yes. Because you did. You cannot. This is the thing about story theater that is so compelling. You cannot not go with me into these scenes. You cannot not do it. And it doesn't matter where you're from. And this is the beauty of story theater. It is a universal language. I have done this all over the world. I even did this in Japan with a Japanese interpreter, and people still got it. I have done it in Malaysia. I've done it in Spain. I've done it all over the United States. It is the universal language because it is theater. It is behavior. It is not just telling a story. It is showing and telling a story. Now, this is the app that takes story to the next level. So here's the question. What's your story? And is it worth working on this story and making it a little bit more colorful so that you can monetize that story and turn that into $1 million story? Because your story can take you to the next place, but at the same time it can influence and persuade people to go to the next place, but they won't do it if they just hear it and understand it. Understanding a concept does not change hearts, minds, and behavior. It does not get people to write a check. It does not get people to say, okay, you've convinced me, all right, I'm going to go along with your idea. No, there's got to be something more compelling. So the idea here, and at the top of page 3, you can see what I'm asking for, the visuals. When you're creating a story, you need to make it visual. So I want you right now to all identify in your mind a story that you would like to be more amazing, more colorful. So if you're watching this on video, on YouTube or on the feed, what is that story that you'd like to make more amazing, more colorful, more compelling, more emotionally dynamic? So just think about that for a second. Now, I want you to visualize when you were experiencing that event in your life. You were in environments, am I right? You were in specific physical places with other people. Those are the environments that you create with story theater. So look at your story in your mind right now. What are the environments that your story takes place in? Make it visual. Make your story visual. Move. Use some space. Make it three-dimensional. That's when it becomes story theater. And when you take that step, they go with you. Would you agree? Did you go with me when I did that? Make it emotional. What emotions did you feel during this story? Did you feel anxiety? Did you feel joy at the end when I made it on time and I gave the speech? Yes. Did you feel happy when I was like riding along in the limo and I was like, woo, woo-hoo? Did you go with me on my emotional roller coaster? Because you probably did. You go where I take you. You don't have a choice. 90% of every audience will go right there with you. I've often described this as it's kind of like bungee jumping. You don't kinda. You jump. When you commit to telling a story at this level, you go, and they come with you. And it doesn't matter what it feels like out there, you are committed to doing this. It's a mini piece of theater. Now, the next one here is make one clear and concise point with every story. And here's where story strategy comes in. When you choose your story, you immediately have to say, what is the one clear and concise, simple point that I want to make with this story? So when you get to the end of the story, you do not go on for 3 or 4 or 5 sentences about what I learned was, and then you go through this litany of things. No, you get to the end and say, what I learned was, look for the limo. When things don't go right, look for the limo. Now that is a phrase that pays. That is part of the storytelling technology of story theater. It is very strategic. It is very targeted. You don't get to just tell any story that makes a whole bunch of points. It is very, very specific. It is one app that does one thing well. And that's how you influence and persuade people to change. You focus their attention. So I want you to see in the middle of the page where it says visualize scenes. As you are creating your stories, I don't want you to just keep thinking about the sequence. This happened, and then this happened, then I said this, and then this happened, then I said that, and then this happened, then she said this, and then I went over here. And that's just telling. And that stays in the head. You need to visualize the scenes that you were in, where the drama was taking place, and you need to play within those scenes. Story strategy. Use a specific story to make one clear and concise point. Years ago, I realized I get hired all the time by very, very frustrated clients who are giving very, very dull, dry technical presentations full of very good information, but they put their listeners into a content coma. Have you ever done this with a presentation? Have you ever put your audience into a content coma? Say yes. I know some of you have, because it's like such good content. But oh my gosh, it's so much content. Anybody besides me ever give a presentation where you got 3 hours worth of content in a 20-minute presentation? Yes? Oh my gosh, this is a crime against humanity. This is a problem. So I get hired by people all the time for this one reason. I thought, I need a story that illustrates what I do with these clients to put up on my website so that more people will listen to the story of what I do, understand what I do, and hire me. I want to monetize my business with the right story. Well, I didn't have the story, so I went on a story safari, what I call a Google search for the right story. I need a story that teaches what I do with technology, where I help people to make their content more interesting. Oh, here's the story. Any of you people have dogs or cats? Got any people with pets? Some of you don't have pets, you got kids. You'll probably relate to this. Even if you don't have dogs or cats, go with me on this. I grew up with dogs, Irish setters. My dad was into Irish setters, and we had Irish setter. We had Dawn, we had Penny, and as a kid, I always had dogs. And I thought, this is so cool, because when you're a kid, you just get to play with the dogs, but your parents take care of them. They're the ones who spend the money, am I right? So as a kid, it's like, this is great. Well, as an adult, all of a sudden I realized, I want my own dog. So I went out and I got this little black lab puppy, 6 weeks old, just this little ball of fat and fur and just adorable. And I named her Jaya, and I raised her, and she was just adorable. She was my best friend. When I was down in Hollywood, I needed a buddy. Well, about 2 years into this relationship with this dog, she got sick. I'd never had to deal with this before, but all of a sudden she was very lethargic. She wasn't eating her food, and I thought, something's going on with this dog. Jaya is not good. I got to take her to the vet. So for the first time I'd ever had to do this, I took her to the vet. He diagnosed her. He said, yep, she's got a cold. She's a little bit sick. Here's some pills. Give her a pill at breakfast and a pill at dinner. Thought, so easy. Just give her a pill at breakfast. So that night at dinner, I was going to give her a pill. And I said, come on, Jaya, I know, come on, come here. Good girl, sit. I know, you don't feel very well. Hi, I know, I've got to give you a pill. What did he tell me to do? Okay, so Jaya, I've got to pull your mouth open. I've got to shove this down into the back of your throat, and I'm going to hold it, and you're going to swallow it. Yeah. Come on. Why are you looking at me like that? Come on, swallow the pill. Okay, what did he say? Okay, if she just looks at you, massage her throat. Massage the throat. Good girl. So did you swallow it? So she spits up the pill on my hands. It's like, this is ridiculous. I tried this 3 more times. I went through 4 pills. They cost a lot of money. Am I right? Oh my gosh, they cost a lot of money. Anybody who have kids who are a little bit fussy with their pills? Dogs, cats, gerbils, pythons? So anyway, I was really frustrated with this. I figured, who knows how to do this? I called my friend John. I said, John, you've had dogs your entire life. What do you do? Well, you got any peanut butter? John, do you need some peanut butter? Are you asking for me to bring some peanut butter over? No. Do you have some peanut butter? Yeah, I've got peanut butter. Hide the pill in the peanut butter. I see some heads nodding. I thought, this is so strange. Hide the pill in the peanut butter. But I did it. I went and I got some peanut butter. I scooped it into my palm, and I put the pill inside the peanut butter. And I went over to Jaya. Come here, Jaya. Come on, you want something to... Yes, oh, good girl. Well, I hid the pill in the peanut butter and the medicine went down. Hide the pill in the peanut butter. What is the pill? The pill is all of that information that you've got in a presentation that is so hard to swallow for the listener's brain because it's just too much. And sometimes it's too dry and technical. Would you agree? The pill is good medicine. It's good information, and yet it's hard for their brain to swallow it. Would you agree? Yes or no? Because sometimes it's just like, oh my God, I get this. Why don't they get this? Because you're brilliant and they're not you. That's why. And so when you are coming up with a whole bunch of data that you need to put into a presentation, my counsel for you is to hide the pill, the good medicine, in the story butter. Because the peanut butter sticks, the story sticks. That story is the strategic use of a story to make a specific point. So that's story theater once again. The strategic use of a story to do a specific thing. I can tell you for a fact, I've put that up on my homepage on my website. I now get calls from clients from all over the world that used to come to my website and keep going. Now they come to my website, they watch that video, they pick up the phone, and they talk to me. That's monetizing your story. That's $1 million story. How much is your story worth? A speaker's job is to deliver information in a way that motivates people to listen, remember, and act. Here's the greatest challenge that you face in your presentations, internally or externally. If you go in and you make a presentation, the person that you're speaking to is going to take action later on, based on whether they remember anything from your presentation or not. They're not necessarily going to change their mind in the room, that their behavior changes later on. You have to be memorable. And if you give a presentation and you're not memorable, you're dead in the water. So I want you to think about a presentation you've made, you've listened to, you've been participating in the last 24 hours, where you've been in the audience for a presentation. What do you remember? Come on, give me something. What do you remember from a presentation? Any presentation you've been in the last 24 hours, somebody give me a specific thing that you remember. I need 3 people. What do you got?
Feeling bored out of my mind.
Feeling bored out of my mind. Now, is that what the presenter wanted? I don't think so. So your sense is, oh my God, this sucks. I am so bored. This is terrible. This is pathetic. This person doesn't get it. He doesn't know how to engage me. That's frustration. That's not learning anything. That's being a little bit ticked off that this person doesn't get it, right? Who can remember content? Yeah, what do you got? A student who had been admitted into a university. In other words, are you telling me that you're remembering somebody telling a story about a student? Yeah. You're remembering a story. Can you see that right now? Here's the challenge. I ask you, what do you remember from a presentation within the last 24 hours? Nobody raises their hand and says, there was this incredible concept. It's like, yeah, the content just goes flopping away. Here we go. How to choose your stories. You start with the point in mind. You start by thinking, what do I need a story to do? Story is a utility. Story is a vehicle that accomplishes something. What do I need a story to teach? You start with the point in mind. That's where you start. And then you go on a story safari. Look for a moment of crisis, challenge, or obstacle. So I want you to understand that you're always looking for the iceberg moment. And when I say look for the iceberg moment, what do you think I'm talking about? What is the iceberg moment related to? Titanic. You know what the story of Titanic is without the iceberg? It's a cruise ship. It's just a big cruise ship, and it's going from England to New York, and it's just a cruise ship. Without the iceberg, do we have a story? Not really. But with the iceberg, okay, we got something. What is the iceberg moment in your story? There's got to be a crisis, an obstacle, or a challenge. So you're always looking for stories that have this pain, this challenge, this frustration. The moment doesn't have to be profound or dramatic. I want you to think about the stories that I told you today. One was a story about giving my dog a pill. Oh my gosh, is this profound? No, it's ordinary, everyday stuff. But with craft, it becomes something. My airport story. Has anybody else ever had a delayed flight? So is this profound? No. But with craft, it becomes something. The story teaches a better way to think about something or a better way to do something. The story portrays an event that has special meaning, perhaps a turning point in your life. Now here is how you start with the point in mind and go on a Google search for that story. If you start to search, you say, I want a story about empathy. I need a story about integrity. I need a story about innovation. So you start with that point in mind. You go, okay, I'm going to search my life for innovation. I got nothing. Well, you know what you're doing? You're doing a Google search of your entire life, but you forgot to put some words in the search box. Here's the words you put in the search box. Innovation. Where was I living when I was 30 years of age? So what you're doing is you're going back to a specific moment in your life. So you go back to where were you living? You go back to an address. And then you scan, while I was at that address, what happened? Is there anything that happened while I was in that apartment or in that house when I was 30 years of age that had anything to do with innovation? No. How about my job when I was 30? What job did I have? What boss did I have? What team was I on? Anything to do with innovation? Okay, what about my relationships? I was in relationship with, who was I in relationship with? And you're basically going to a specific moment in your life and scanning that moment in your life for something around innovation. If you don't find anything at 30, 32, where was I living? 35, where was I living? 40, where was I living? And you keep doing this, but you have to put search terms in the Google box of your brain, and that will help you to identify a story. So I'm going to answer a couple of questions for you before we end here that are common questions that I hear from everybody. Which comes first, the story or the point? In storytelling in business, strategic storytelling in business, basically I'm always looking at it from the point of I need a story to do something. So I start with the point in mind. But occasionally something happens to me like this airport story with the Kansas City airport and the missing the shuttle bus and the limo. And after something like that happens, because I'm a story guy, because I'm always coming from theater and metaphor, something like that happens and I'm kind of sitting back going, that's interesting. I thought that the best outcome would be to either get a taxi, but there weren't any, so they'd get the shuttle would be a positive outcome and I'd get there on time. Didn't get a taxi, didn't get shuttle, got a limo. Limo was better. Why would I be disappointed about missing a shuttle bus and getting a limo? I should be happy that I missed the shuttle bus. And I start playing with the concept, the metaphor of this, and I go, now I have to find out what's the point. So if you got a story from your life and think, this is cool stuff, what's the utility, what's the point? You have to then go to what's the point. You don't get to tell it if it doesn't have a right point. Which is better, personal stories or stories about other people? Well, let's take a vote. When you're listening to a story from a speaker, from a presenter, somebody in your organization, which one plugs you in more? Them telling a story about something in their life or them telling a story about somebody else? So, personal story, they're telling you a personal story. Who thinks that's better? Well, that's basically 95% of the room. So you just answered the question. You need to be willing to share stories from your life. You need to be willing to share stories where you messed up and learned a lesson. Here's the challenge. You are bringing wisdom to that lesson. You're bringing wisdom to that pain or that challenge. So you're not saying basically, boy, I screw up a lot. No, you're saying, I was doing this thing. It didn't turn out the way I thought it was supposed to. I learned this wonderful lesson, and I want to share that wisdom with you so I can spare you some pain. So personal stories are best. That doesn't mean you can't have other types of stories. I'm going to share with you other types in just a second. Does the story have to be true, or can you embellish? Yes. Yes. The story has to be true. Here's the test of any story that you tell. If somebody walks up to you after your presentation and says, did that really happen to you? What does your answer have to be in integrity? Yes, that really happened to me. Can you embellish the story and it still be true? Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. Do you want to get a laugh? Embellish. Have some fun. I don't remember when I was at the back of the plane, if there was a lady whose entire life was in the overhead bin and in her luggage. I don't remember that specifically about that flight, but I fly a lot. Is that true on just about every flight, that there is somebody who has never flown in their life and they've got no idea what it means to fly on a regional jet? Am I the only one? And so I insert that in, that's an embellishment. But the story is true, that happened to me. So it has to be true, and yes, you can embellish it. How long should a story be? As long as it takes to be powerful. I told you 2 stories today. The airport story was about 9 minutes long. The pill and the peanut butter story was about 4 minutes long. Pill and the peanut butter story doesn't need to be much longer. That's the right amount of time to do that. The airport story is a much bigger theatrical story. That's what it takes to do that. Here's a guideline. 3 to 6 minutes. 3 to 6 minutes. But if you think a 30-second vignette is a story, you are wrong. It's a vignette. It's really not that engaging. It's interesting. But it's not engaging. It's not compelling. You need to look at your presentation in terms of what presentation have I got that I have to win. I have to have a story that just rocks. It has to nail it. I mean, it's just got to compel people to action. I have to get them to change their mind. I have to get them to change their perspective. I have to move them. Well, if you want to move them, then you need to be moving them with energy and passion and power and personality and an incredibly crafted story, a story theater story. Now, the last one is, how do you determine the point of your story? You don't stick a point on this just generic, I want to tell a story about this and I'm going to stick this point on this story. You have to look at, what did you do to overcome the obstacle? when you were in that situation and that obstacle, that crisis, that challenge occurred, what was your process? So I want you to take a look at the story that you've got in your mind right now, and I want you to go back and visualize, okay, when that thing happened, what was the first thing that happened? The second thing that happened, was there a thought? Was there an emotion? Was there an action? And then what did I do? And then what did I think? And then what did I feel? And then what did I do? And literally create a sequence in your mind of every thought, every action, and every reaction. And sequence that all out, and then look in terms of what did I do for the lesson. Now, when I was at the curb and the shuttle bus went away, my first thought was, I'm going to be late. And my second thought was, oh, no, you're not. You have a keynote to give. Come on, find something. Look around, find something. And so I started to look around, and I looked, and there was a limo. And because my mind said shuttle bus, I hadn't even seen that there was a limo sitting in front of me. Look for the limo. So it took me a while to work through that process of what did I do at the curb. But when I got to the place where I finally, look for the limo. Good language, look for the limo. That's really cool. And then you know the embellishment? I gave the words look for the limo to the limo driver. I created a Yoda. Yes. Is this good? Because when you create a Yoda and you give the profound language to somebody like him, and he says, don't look for the shuttle, man, look for the limo, then you can react to it. And you can do what I call a self-reflective echo. Look for the limo. Look for the limo. You guys aren't even knowing I'm doing like 27 techniques in here. And they all work really well because they're subliminal and they're cool and they're a little bit of story theater. Is this fun or what? If you are listening to this on the feed, or if you're watching this on the Google channel on YouTube, or if any of you would like a copy of this handout for someone else, or you would like the article called The 9 Steps of Story Structure article, here's what you do. Send an email to me, doug@dougstevenson.com. So dougstevenson.com. And in the subject line, just write Google Handout. And I will email a PDF of this handout to you along with an article on the 9 steps of story structure that fleshes it out a little bit more. So today has been an absolute joy and a pleasure to be on the Google campus with you here in Mountain View, California. It's a lovely day. Go on out and story on. Thank you very much.
We have brought Doug Stevenson in several times to speak to our leadership development programs on the power of storytelling, how we can impact business results, how we can be better leaders, and communicate with impact through story. The feedback we received after his first keynote was overwhelmingly positive. The audience loved him. One person said, this is the best keynote I've ever heard on storytelling. So if you're searching the web for a great keynote speaker or workshop facilitator to talk about story and the influence and impact it can have on your business, choose Doug Stevenson. He's fantastic. You will not be disappointed.
And so in 2015, I came to ATD for the first time. I went to a dozen sessions in my time that I was here, but I came to see Doug, and I sat next to my friend, and he started talking, and he told a couple of stories that I remembered. So there were 2 stories in particular I remembered. One of them, and they each have catchphrases, which is Doug's. That's his deal, right? And so he. The first was look for the limo, right? About looking for solutions to problems instead of looking at the problem itself. And the second was hide the pill in the peanut butter. Magic, the system that he has of teaching stories and sort of breaking down the path of where a story goes in order to end at the lesson that you want them to learn. It works so well that I went home, and at the end of the conference, I could repeat hide the pill in the peanut butter. I couldn't repeat much else. Fast forward 2 years. It's raining outside. I've normally been walking from my hotel to ATD, and instead, because it's raining, I decide I have to take the shuttle. So I step onto the shuttle, and who do I see? I can't remember his name. but he's the look for the limo guy. He's the hide the pill in the peanut butter guy. I know exactly who he is as soon as I see him. And I approach him and I let him know that 2 years later, after his 1-hour session, I definitely remember both of his catchphrases and how well it worked.
This was an exceptional experience in which not only we learned tips and tricks about how to engage in storytelling, how to engage others with storytelling, but it also prompted one to become introspective about themselves, about what they've done, their life history, and how they can truly infuse what they've experienced into their own training sessions, which then can add value to those who are experiencing the actual classroom setting. If you invite Doug to join you and your team, what I can tell you about his style is that he has a poise, a presence, he infuses humor into the day many, many times, and through his stories he actually can help bridge the connection to you personally. That's something that makes it, again, come to life and make it real. He's fun, he's engaging, he has energy, and he just has a way about him that creates an environment of comfort for everyone in the classroom such that they can truly enjoy the experience, sit back, learn, listen, and even be vulnerable at times, which is nice, because we can actually be human on the job as we should be, especially for leaders.
The greatest accolade, if you will, that I've received, that was the first event that I put together for our senior leadership team, was when our CEO, as soon as Doug finished speaking, sent a text message to my boss, who's the Senior Director of Talent Management and Performance Management, saying that we absolutely nailed it with our speaker.
Doug is a delight. He's someone that you would want to be around. He gives off a level of authenticity, and he's an approachable person, so that you're instantaneously drawn to who he is on stage, which is rare. Sometimes people are good speakers, but maybe they seem a little too cool for school or a little bit distant because they seem like a rock star. Doug is clearly a rock star, but he's an approachable rock star. That's what I would describe him as, approachable rock star.